So, welcome everyone, and thank you all for hopping onto our Zoom this evening. My name is Mike Fury, and I've been with LifeVantage since October 2019. And so far, I have to say it's been a wonderful experience, both from the product side of it and also I'm really enjoying the business side of it. So for this week, International Men's Health Week, we have an all-male cast this evening for our Zoom, and our agenda will follow. First of all, we'll have an overview, a quick overview, given by the brilliant Brett Dorney, who will tell us a little bit about the company and the products, and touch a little bit as well on the business side of it. And then we have our guest speaker, Richard Carnell, to share his experience with the company so far. And then to finish out, we'll have a Q&A session at the end for anybody that may have any questions on any part of the presentation tonight. So without further delay, I'll hand you over to Brett for the overview. Thanks, Brett.
Mike, thank you. Delighted, and thanks everyone for joining us. I'm going to share my screen and just pull up the slides, and then we'll get started. Mike, just give me a thumbs up that you can see those. Okay, great. So thanks, Mike, for the cue. So for our men here this evening, or for those catching the replay, thanks so much for joining us. My opportunity this evening is just to give you a bit of background on the science first, and then the products that stack up as a result of that science. I'll then go on to just give you a little bit of background on the company that sits behind all that amazing science and products, and then I'll hand back to Mike for the second part of the session. So LifeVantage began in a lab with a single question. After 40 years of research by our chief scientist that started with the company back in 2003, they were looking at two key issues around the question of, is declining health something we must accept as part of getting older? And the first issue was discovered in the early 2000s as a result of the mapping of the genome about our genes having the incredible abilities to keep our bodies healthy. So once the genome was fully mapped, we really understood the power of the genes and how we can that can affect our health and well-being. And the second discovery was that we could activate those abilities in our bodies, and we could do that in a particular way using a new science that has emerged as a result of those 40-odd years of research that began back in 1969 with our core scientist, Dr. Joe McCord, discovering an antioxidant in our bodies called superoxide dismutase. So he was the co-discoverer of that in the body in 1969 and spent the rest of his life focused in this area to see how we could activate those genes in our bodies and do things that we couldn't do before. And that whole field of science that has emerged from that is called nutrigenomics. Now, that's a big word. Let's break it down into its components. Nutrition, nutrients and natural compounds, genomics affecting the genome, and genes, of course. So how can nutrients and naturally occurring compounds affect genes in our genomes? And that's really talking about something that's causing massive disruption into a traditional industry. There are many industries facing disruption at the moment, and this is what's happening in the traditional industry of supplementation, because supplementation is about putting things in your body and adding things in. What we're talking about is activation, flipping switches in your body that do things that your body hasn't done for years as part of the aging process. And the key one is the NRF2 activation switch. So flip the switch in the body that up and down regulates genes for gene expression. And more on that in a minute. So the first theory of aging that the company tackled was as a result of Dr. McCord's discoveries around antioxidants in our bodies. And what we know is that the first theory of aging is about oxidative stress, what causes it, and how we can set our bodies apart in relation to tackling that oxidative stress. So a good analogy for this is, think about when you take a fresh apple, you maybe cut it in half, you leave it in the air, put it on the kitchen counter, and pretty quickly it starts to oxidize. You see the effects of that going brown, shriveling, wrinkling up, and so on. and looking as it does on the screen there. Well, that is as a result of being exposed to oxygen. The same thing is happening in our bodies. We have to consume oxygen to breathe as humans. We're reliant on it, of course. But as part of the process of doing that, we are exposing our cells and our bodies to something called free radicals. They're not good, they're bad. Free radicals attack our cells. They're looking to balance themselves up by stealing positive electrons from our cells. And that imbalance is what's called oxidative stress. So the body has its ability to fight off those free radicals with its own antioxidants, one of which is the one that Dr. McCord discovered. So how do we get these free radicals? Where do they come from? They come from technology, from the environment, pollution, microwaves, Wi-Fi, pesticides, herbicides, even the water we drink. And you can't even, from a healthy perspective, you can't even stop being exposed to free radicals as a result of even too much exercise, because that increases your level of oxygen and it increases your exposure to free radicals and reactive oxygen species, which is part of those free radicals. So there's no escaping it, is the message. It's there and it's in all of us. So what the company did as a result of Dr. McCord's discoveries is combine 5 all-natural ingredients that you see here in these great photos at the bottom of the screen in a low-dose patented formula following literally thousands of combinations until they got the right one, into a formula which reduces oxidative stress by 40% in 30 days, which is a phenomenal outcome. So that's combining those low doses of turmeric, which is a good anti-inflammatory, milk thistle, a great liver cleanser, green tea, which is an antioxidant in its own right, a good for the metabolism, ashwagandha, which is a root, a good mood balancer, and bacopa, which is a plant, a flower actually, which is great for brain clarity. Now, all of those individual ingredients have the power to activate a NRF2 pathway in the cells, but in combination, you can see in that graph on the right-hand side, it's 18 times more effective as a result of that patented formula that's protected so that no one can copy it. It's an invention that's been protected. Now, what is that NRF2 pathway? Well, think of it as the doorbell on your cells. And as a result of aging from the mid-20s onwards, it goes quiet. So our body loses its ability to boost and produce the amount of antioxidants that it should do to counter those free radicals we were just talking about. So what this does is it rings the doorbell again and says, come on, wake up, produce those antioxidants. Let's do it in the way that we know you can back in the day when you were still in your 20s, even as in your teens. And the result of that is increasing glutathione by up to 300%, which is one of those 3 antioxidants that we have in our bodies. So what this does is it creates an activation process in your body to create millions of antioxidants per tablet that you take. Quite phenomenal. And you would say, well, look, I have a very healthy, balanced diet. Whoever's responsible for cooking in our house, make sure that I eat a very colorful, rich in vegetables and fruit, antioxidant-rich diet. I'm good. That takes care of me. And we know now that that just isn't true, because those are what are called dietary antioxidants or secondary antioxidants. And the challenge with those is that they fight free radicals on a one-to-one basis. So think of that as the equivalent of a bee. It goes off and kills the free radical, but in doing so kills itself off. So you imagine we have 300 septillion free radicals in the average human body because of those exposures we were talking about earlier. You can't eat your way to out of oxidative stress. It's just not possible. You'd be eating 11 pounds of blueberries a day, 375 oranges, 120 vitamin C tablets, and 87 glasses of red wine. Just not possible to do it in those kind of quantities for the numbers that you need. Whereas the NRF2 product Protandim, what it does is it produces the body's own antioxidants, primary antioxidants. They fight free radicals on a 1,000,000-to-1 basis. So they're not killed off in killing off antioxidants. They do that 1,000,000 times before they're killed off. So you see a much more potent, a fire hose really, putting out the fires in our body. And that graph over on the right-hand side shows that after 30 days on Protandim NRF2, you cannot tell the blood of a 20-year-old from the blood of an 80-year-old because of the reduction in oxidative stress measured by something called T-bars. Now, if that sounds unbelievably good, then I'm just going to make that even better, because that has resulted in a slew of universities, respected universities, and other research institutions showing interest in this product and conducting independent, self-funded, peer-reviewed studies into the effect of it. If you go to the National Library of Medicine, the International Global Repository for all published peer-reviewed research, pubmed.gov, and you put in oxidative stress, you'll see that there's, at last count, 230,000 studies into oxidative stress, and it's linked to all sorts of other nasties that we suffer from. Well, Protandim has 26 of its own peer-reviewed studies on PubMed. So you can actually put it in by name into that search bar, and those 26 studies will come up. And they're done by universities like Harvard, the National Institute of Health, the National Institute of Aging, and one in particular that I love, Washington State University, in 2015, looked at the whole field of NRF2 activation. They did what's called a review study into it. And their conclusion was that the health effects of NRF2 may well become the most extraordinary therapeutic and preventative breakthrough in the history of medicine. That is just a phenomenal thing to say in the fairly recent times about what this is going to do for all of us in terms of our health and wellness. So, with the effect of, and clearly the science of NRF2 activation in our Protandim product, the company then turns its attention to dealing with oxidative stress from the outside in. Of course, Protandim NRF2 does it from the inside out. So it said, let's look at doing it from the outside in. And of course, the skin is the largest body largest organ in our body, accounts for about 7% of the weight of the body. So they turned their attention to the skin, and then just last year in October into the scalp and into the hair. So looking at the whole body now, from literally from head to toe, inside and outside. And it's put those NRF2 activating ingredients into a skincare regime, which is great for men, and a hair care regime, which is even better for men. And you can see some before and afters, and the effect that it has when you activate the scalp in particular for an NRF2 activation. So men here tonight that are concerned and are interested in those photos, I'm sure that is quite something to see, as you can see there. And these are very clean products. If you go to your phones and get the Think Dirty app, this is an app that rates all available bathroom and personal care products for their toxicity, carcinogenicity, things that cause cancer, and allergens that are caused in the body. And it gives it a rating between 0 and 10. And our products all come out between 0 and 3. So a really good, clean score, non-toxic, non-allergenic, which is great. So with that great science and seeing the effect of that at a cellular level, the company said, well, we can turn our attention to other cellular pathways that are in the body and what they do. So they turned their attention to something called the mitochondria. Now, those of you that did biology at high school will remember mitochondria are the power packs. They're the batteries. We have thousands of these in our cells, in those organs that are particularly thirsty for energy, hearts, lungs, and so on. They can have up to 6,500 mitochondria in each and every cell. So a huge number of these. And these are responsible for generating all of our energy in our body. Between 85 and 90% of our energy is created in our mitochondria. So they are incredibly important. Without them, we wouldn't survive. The pathway that activates and cleans up, continues to produce mitochondria in our body, is the NRF1 pathway, again at the cellular level. So the company turned its attention to that pathway using the same science from our NRF2 product and said, all natural ingredients combined, let's see if we can activate that NRF1 pathway. And here you see the results. Increasing cellular energy, or ATP, by slowing down the aging process, helping sleep quality and cellular repair. So that mitochondrial process of production, cleaning up, tuning our mitochondria is going on, called mitochondrial biogenesis, and this product takes care of that. So it's boosting the mitochondria and helping their ability to work together. So those battery packs all working in harmony. So What are the results of those amazing products for us? Well, 6 key areas as a result of those, and the skincare and hair care: improved sleep, improved vitality, increased energy, better memory and focus, healthier hair, skin and nails, and of course, anti-aging of cells. Now, for our men here tonight, even the skincare is an incredible series for men, and really is just so fragrance neutral, really pleasant, lovely product that's really great to use, and we can highly recommend that, and we'll talk about that in a bit more detail later. So Mike, I'm going to go on, I think, and just talk about the business quickly, and then I'll hand back to you. How's that?
Perfect.
Okay, good. So a little bit of background about our company, LifeVantage, as we say here in Europe. Who is it and what's its background? It's probably a company that some of you may never have heard of. Well, it's a biotech company. It was founded in 2003. In 2005, as a result of some of the early science that was being published, the ABC network in the US, TV network, sent in their primetime investigative reporter team into the lab to debunk what they were seeing in the published science. So they spent several weeks in the company, in the lab in Colorado, to really understand what this product was all about. The science was saying that it would reduce oxidative stress by 40% in 30 days. So within 2 weeks, the chief correspondent came back into the company, having had a blood test at the start, and said, take it at 2 weeks and let's see what it's done. And it had reduced his oxidative stress by 45% in that 14-day period. So you can imagine the result of that. When that aired, a huge flurry of interest occurred. All of those medical institutions, research organizations wanted their hands on that product so they can do their own research into it. And that continues to this day. The company is listed on the NASDAQ stock exchange. That's a very big deal. It's a publicly traded company, has huge institutional investors behind it. It means that we're subject to regulation from the FTC regulator in the US, as well as the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. So regulatory interest in the business, making sure that they make sound decisions, which is great. This whole personal wellness nutrigenomics market that we've been talking about is expected to reach 17 billion by 2023. It's projected to be the next trillion-dollar industry, actually, which is something quite phenomenal. The business has grown from a tiny couple of $1 million business to $250 million last year. So it's a very considerably big, large organization now, operating in a number of countries. 86% of all of the users of the products are customers. That's a huge customer footprint in multiple countries in the world. And we attracted the famous Erin Brockovich to the corporate board last year, who joined our board as a well-known activist, for which I think many of us remember Julia Roberts playing her in the movie. And then just in January, before the craziness set off from current circumstances, LifeVantage was invited to come in and close to ring the closing bell on the NASDAQ days trading on the 9th of January, which was a very big deal. So it's in 20 countries. It spans from North America and Canada and Mexico on one continent, across into Europe. You can see the list of countries in which they're open, and over into Asia and Oceania, Australia, New Zealand. And we have some Aussies and Kiwis on the call with us tonight, so thank you. The benefits of this business, how does it work? Well, as a person who's aligning with this business and setting up your own business, you get a personal referral website. All of us independent distributors get our own personal referral websites in all of those countries in which I've just shared we're open. And it's about social sharing, telling people about the company, about the products. There's no inventory requirements. There's no stock needed, no overheads, very low. And that website is priced in local currency, and it's shipped from local markets to keep customs and excise duties to a minimum. So great for satisfying customer demand. Because it's a NASDAQ traded company and it's on the DSA, the Direct Selling Association, is part of that membership, the company is very transparent about what people can do in terms of building a business with LifeVantage, aligning with them. You can see in that third column from the left that it moves from paying for your products through to a part-time income, and finally a full-time replacement income. And it tracks the average length of time in months to get to those levels in the business. So it gives you a very clear idea in a 3 to 5 year period how you can navigate with this company and build a business of some substance that you can actually leave for your family as a willable asset. So you're thinking, okay, great. I've heard about some great products. Why is this a great business? We've talked about the NRF2 product tonight in particular. That is patented. You heard that from me earlier. It's very mass market. Everyone benefits. We all have oxidative stress. We all have mitochondria. It's affordable, less than a cup of coffee a day, backed by incredible science. As you've heard, it's consumable, and it builds a subscription model income for people who are doing the business. So, you know, that's material. And if you're thinking, well, I don't know anybody in this space, there's some proof tonight that we've got people from all over the world on the team that lock arms and come together to support each other. And we follow a very easy system, launching, learning while you earn, and then stepping into leadership and building your business over time. And the company sets up some support around that with both events, incentives, and of course our team that do that. So before I hand back to Mike, just how would you get started if you're interested in this? Well, if you want to activate your health using those Protandim products, it's not a club. There's no fees to join. You order through the person who's referred you website. Monthly subscription orders give you a reduced price of about 20% reduction. If you're interested in the business, again, please go back to the person who invited you here this evening. But I'm sure you're interested to hear about some personal experiences with this product. So I'm going to hand back to Mike at this stage, and let's hear some stories. Mike, back to you.
Thank you so much, Brett. That was a fantastic presentation. Absolutely amazing. You explained things so well. I think we all admire your presentation skills. It's fantastic. So yes, we have our guest here tonight, Richie Carnell. So I'm just going to ask Richie a couple of questions on his experience, I suppose, with LifeVantage and the products themselves. So Richie, what was your experience before you discovered the NRF2 activation?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Well, my story goes back quite a long way, and I won't bore everybody with the total sort of details, but I had a couple of quite serious knee injuries, which resulted in me having to have not a knee replacement, but a fairly radical surgery, which basically left me with bone on bone in my left knee. And prior to that, I mean, it'd been swelling up and really painful, and you know, I was having to go to my GP to have it drained on a weekly basis. So the surgery did help for several years, but fast forward 20 years to age 50, things had started taking a bit of a downhill slope where, you know, I was still getting severe discomfort. My work was being affected. I couldn't sleep. It was difficult to find a comfortable position. So I tried, you know, I'd have a pillow between my knees, or if I wanted to lie on my back, I couldn't straighten my legs, so I'd have a pillow under my knee. And, you know, this was getting worse and worse and worse. So, and, you know, we tried lots of different therapies and supplements. And well, you know, it was kind of a downhill cycle, really, of quite severe discomfort, which, you know, impacts your whole life. It's you know, it made me have to stay home from work on the odd occasion, and so yeah, things were getting pretty bad, really.
Okay, so, and then how long were you on the product before you started to kind of feel the experience results, I suppose, from the NRF2 activation?
Well, I mean, I started on the product about 2.5, maybe 3 years ago, give or take a month or two. And I think the first thing I experienced was a better sleep pattern. I mean, I was almost an insomniac before, you know, having to work, you know, get up at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning because, you know, it was just impossible to get to sleep. So that was probably the first thing I noticed. And then after about, I suppose, 3-4 months, I suddenly started to realize that things were more comfortable. I was much more able to, being a plumber, I have to get into some pretty tight situations and climb around in people's attics and under their floors and in under their sink units. And things were just, getting much more comfortable. I was able to walk further. I was just enjoying life more, I suppose you could say. And, sleep was marvelous. So it was just an amazing improvement.
Oh, that's fantastic. Great to hear. So life has been a lot better since it has kicked in.
Oh yeah, it's incredible now. It's anybody that suffered from prolonged any kind of joint injury or discomfort, it does impact on your whole life, and it affects you as much psychologically as it does physically. Because you can't do the things that other people are doing. So now, I'm going to be 70 later this year. Life's never been better. I'm really enjoying life, and the overall just the feeling of well-being is incredible. So I've got nothing but praise for what's happened, with the NRF2.
Brilliant. Well, you look absolutely brilliant for a man who's going to be 70 very shortly.
It's all makeup.
Yeah, I guess. Thanks for sharing your experience with the product, I suppose, Richard. Thank you very much. So,
well, that's all right. It's been a pleasure, and if it's going to help somebody to get the same results as I've done, then I'd be over the moon. So
great, fantastic.
Thank you.
So we'll hand back to Brett and see if anybody has any questions. Maybe we could